Hi YouTube, it's that time of year again where I'm going to be making a lot of homemade sauerkraut, aka fermented cabbage. I'd like to share with you how I prep anytime I make anything with cabbage in it. I kind of have a phobia about worms in my food. So um, cabbage is known to harbor worms that get into it, and they're so hard to find. This is a tried and true little tip that I'm going to share with you. If you this is 4 gallons of water, and yes, this is a gigantic pot. I use it for my canning. But I'm going to mix up with this 4 gallons of water. I mixed up mixed into it a cup of pickling and canning salt. The reason that I use the pickling and canning salt is there are no additives to this, so you don't have to worry about any minerals or anything. It's just pure salt. Anyway, I'm going to take these gigantic heads of cabbage, and I'm going to submerge them into the water. Bugs do not like salt water, so it drives these worms out, if there are any, out of the cabbage. And just because I don't see any wormholes does not mean that there are not any worms. I've learned that the hard way. So now, just as a precaution, I always soak my cabbage. I submerge it into the salt water before I make coleslaw or cabbage rolls or anything. I always do this step. Anyway, so I'll wedge those in there so they stay submerged below the water line. You'll see them bubbles coming out as they fill up with the water. Anyway, I'm going to show you my Harsh fermenting pot here. You can make kimchi in this. This is a great tool. This has a patent. The Harsh pot has the patent here for the water. What you do is you put your cabbage or whatever you're fermenting, the vegetables, inside the crock, and you put your stones on top. And when you put the lid on, you fill this channel here with water, and it prevents any air from getting into it. And of course, you always use the pickling or canning salt when you're making your fermented cabbage. See the air bubbles coming out of the cabbage? That means that it's infiltrating. The liquid is infiltrating the cabbage. So if there are any worms, they're not going to be liking this salt water. And I don't have to worry about cutting up some worms in my sauerkraut. So I'll let this sit for a couple hours, and it's not going to hurt the cabbage at all. But if there are any worms, it'll drive them out of the cabbage. And I'll bring you back when I make my fermented cabbage. It's a really healthy addition to your food sources. Anyway, as always, this is Back to Basics Gal. I'd like to thank you for stopping by.